Okay, this is a Rolls-Royce 1961 that came in from out of state, and it had some overheating issues. This car is actually now idled for probably about 20-25 minutes. If you look at the temperature, we have the thermostat in it. It's the owner's one. He tested it himself. It's like new. That's as hot as we can get it. The oil's down a little low, but it's super hot, and the gas and the charging gauge is sitting correct. The car, the owner had said that he had for several months prior bringing it to us, it was having problems and actually had the radiator out, I think once before, whatever, but the water pump wasn't right and the radiator was undersized. So I really don't know anything that went on there, and the lower part of the tank had been all changed. So now we put it back to the original size, but went one step better. And then we left the paint off of it for looks. This is the way we like it, since it's a driver car, not for show, and so it should cool better. This particular years and models and really hot traffic, these gauges can start climbing on you and make you feel real nervous. But you know, if you're not seeing overflow blowing a fluid, you've got no issues. Anyway, it came in with us. We looked at it, we ran tests on it. We didn't like the way it circulated on one of our films, and we didn't like the way it got hot so quickly. I mean, there was like no time whatsoever. So now, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and road test this car down the street on our normal road test. We're going to watch this temperature gauge very carefully. We're going to bring it back and we're going to triple check again for any leaks, either by hoses or gaskets, or, you know, even though we rebuild a water pump, that doesn't mean it stays perfect. It can be fine. You know, you rebuild a radiator, it can be fine and have an issue. We do have a little bit of a noisy issue. It could be just normal age. Maybe this car has 134,000 miles, or the lifters are just real old, but we've got a lot of lifter noise going on. It had an unusual noise in it when it came into with that, but you know, now it's pretty much isolated to the lifters, and of course it's more to the back. Well, you know, it's not going to get as much air back there, so, and it's relying on the cooling system itself to work correctly. We're going down the road at 30 miles an hour. We didn't crank these belts super tight. I'm checking the steering on this too. He complained about this. We do have a couple of bushings we can put in this too. That'll get rid of some of this. Woo, look at this. I mean, just car's doing what it wants right here. So take a look at that. But right now we wanted to concentrate and see whether this engine needs rebuild or not, if it won't stay quiet and it won't stay together here. You know, when you overheat a car more than once, of course we don't know how hot it got. He just mentioned it was always getting hot. So right now, if you look, our temperature gauge is doing exactly what we wanted. As soon as we're moving, it's actually pulling down. And like I said, I can't say this enough, we do have a thermostat in it. So here's something I don't really like, is the oil pressure, but that on this older cars, that's what they can look like. But I do want to indicate that this car is like 1.5 quart low of oil, and it is dirty oil. So we're going to mention to the owner and give him the opportunity of whether he would like to go ahead and have us change the oil, or have someone else do it for him. He explained a lot of things to us, like he had somebody do the hoses to the car, but then didn't do the servo and didn't do the brakes. You know, just issues like that. So he's trying to put this car back. Whoever can do this paint work on this car sure does a nice job. It's not without some little marks and chips and this and that, but I mean, my God, you got to look real hard, real close. Whoever's been doing touch up on it, you can see where it's been wet sanded and buffed, and it's, you know, kind of when you clean it, there's streaks of the paint compound and stuff running down various places. But so this car is just really coming along nicely. I mean, he wants to just use it as a driver, but I told him he should use it as a driver and at least enter it so the public can see it as a driver in a show, because it's a beautiful car, just a really beautiful car. So as you can see, we're just taking our time nicely. This is our road test, very quiet, very peaceful. We're very fortunate about that. I like these hills and everything. It really tells me about the carburation, what it's going to do. Is it going to stall, cut out? If you listen, that engine's nice and smooth. I'm barely touching the gas. There, it shifted. Here's something people like to do when they go on a hill. They like to pull these down a gear, and then then they can use it so you're not kind of like dragging the car, But they'll pull it down a gear, and then when they get up to where they need to be, at the crest of the hill, then they'll go ahead and they'll shift it. But we take it real easy on an old car. We don't want to see it back in for service a lot. Our whole objective here is to fix them all, fix them right once, get them all up, and then just see them for normal service, because these cars have scheduled maintenance of every 3 months to 6 months, and it just keeps coming back. If you read your owner's books, it just goes on and on as far as service and maintenance. So we don't need to have things breaking or whatever. There's enough normal stuff to keep it nice, So anyway, temperature gauge is holding down nicely. The oil pressure, it's not dropping down into the low or anything. Remember, 10 pounds hot with a mechanical gauge with a snap-on one says that your rod main bearings are good. So that's where you get oil pressure from, is your rod main bearings. You can put all the oil pumps you want in, but if your rods and mains are no good, you won't get good oil pressure. So the steering has some excessive slop. Transmission shifts firm. I mean, it pulls the car hard and firm, so it indicates somebody has actually adjusted that or been there, because these cars, when they shift, you're not even really supposed to feel it go to the next gear. Never have. They would just automatically just go shift, and you wouldn't feel anything. But you got to know the nature of the beast and know the transmissions and have them built right. They've got to have a good case. Everything you're putting in, the gaps aren't too much, and everything can work exactly the way it was meant to be. I don't hear any weird noises in this car. We're doing 35 miles an hour and just kind of cruising along. Suspension feels pretty tight for what we're doing. The steering, I think I can make that a little bit better by putting the main bushings on it that actually hold the steering. We'll have to take that side panel off and to get to that, but I don't think it should be an issue. We're going to go down a really steep hill. Wouldn't recommend this on a car if you hadn't at least looked at the brakes. We have looked at the brakes and topped the fluid up in it. The fluid was extremely low when it came in, and it has all new hoses, so it looks as if someone has maybe lowered the brakes due to replacing the hoses, and maybe they didn't have enough of the correct RR363 brake fluid, which we did, and they left it low, but it was enough. Brakes aren't pulling the car to the hard to the left or the right at all. This is another thing for carburation, you're now pointing downhill. The other one, you're going uphill. Downhill, that's another way where floats can stick, jam, cause it to run rich, cause it to stall. Last thing you need on this big heavy car is it to stall. This is about as dry a day as we can get right now in January. Roads are clean, no salts on it. It's rained a ton, so this is a good time. With these factory sunroofs, which is a real rare car, we want to make sure we're not out in the rain any length of time. And with these type of cars, we don't really like to get into where we have to clean them or wash them or anything. We leave that all to the owner. Very beautiful car, unless we're detailing them for show, that sort of thing. So we like to give it back just as clean as we can. It might have a little dust on it or something like that, but that's pretty much about it. Here's a nice turn. Feel the engine would stall or give us a problem. Nothing. And then we've got a turn the opposite way. The car seems very, very stable. If you look, well, we got a little dip to the left. If you see that, it did dip where the right side didn't dip as much. So there, if I throw it hard to it, it still didn't dip as much. So we must have a better shock and a spring on the right side than we do on the left side. The springs look rather new on this, so I don't know if they like beefed up the shock oil or what they did. one nice thing about Indian Hill, you'll see some really cool vehicles around here. That's a nice cool Jeep. I'm sure every kid that's 16 or 21 would love to have one of those. Okay, let's see if we can get right here a minute. Get my phone for quit ringing. We're under a bridge, so this will kind of... There we go. That stopped. You can hear anything. I don't hear anything.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, it's smooth. The generator light isn't on. The oil pressure's pretty low. I don't like that, but you know, there's an oil pressure. You know, the sending unit probably needs replaced. The filter probably needs replaced. We know the oil needs replaced. There's a lot of issues going on before I'd even condemn this, you know, or think there's an issue there. But you know, you always worry when a car gets overheated because it can just do a lot of wear, premature wear to a car. But this is staying up high enough, and everything's sweet. I got the carburetor. Look at that. The steering wheel won't shake at all. I feel a little bit in my back. Just a little bit of vibration, like they may have mounted this exhaust system firmly on it instead of it hanging nicely. We have that happen a lot. Exhaust shops will put these exhausts on, they'll like force them tight, and that's the last thing you want to do because you'll feel like the vibration through the chassis. So with that said, listen to that, nothing. Let's go ahead and move forward. A little bit of lifter noise like we heard back at the garage there. Actually, we're almost at the garage. You can note on the speedometer, we just don't, you know, we don't really go any miles. I'm gonna take this around again. I love those little lights on the turn signals right there. See it blinking by the 120 mile an hour. It's like a little slot for it, you know. It's just, these are just really, really, really nice cars. I mean, if you can ever be fortunate enough to get one of these and then bring it in and have everything done to it, maintain it, and get it all up to snuff, I mean, oh my God, you'll just love this thing. I'm gonna cross over here. I don't want to go through the water. Oh, there we go. I mean, you'll have nothing but an investment. These cars are doing nothing but going up and up, you know, but there's still plenty of good buys out there. They're all based on condition and, you know, that sort of thing. There is a gentleman in New York that has them, like, John's his first name, I think. I can't remember. It's been a while since I've talked to him, but everyone he has is 300,000 and up. But I mean, they look like better than the showroom when they came off the floor when back in its day. Just impeccable. He started collecting all the Cloud 3s and did a real nice job taking those cars to the next level even. And just a real big car collector for Rolls-Royces, which, you know, that's great. That's cars I love, so I'm glad they're out there. We need more to come back into Cincinnati, Ohio. How are we doing on time on this video?
Well, we're about 15 minutes in.
15 minutes? Seems like you get them too long. Anyway, so like I said, you can't test a car enough when it had an overheating issue. And like I said, we don't know the extent of it. You the viewer, know exactly as much as we do right now. We know the engine's quiet with a little lifter noise in it. We know that the oil pressure doesn't go to zero, it stays up there. We know that the temperature is staying down right now, where before it would just climb. There wasn't anything you could do. At least that's what the owner was saying to us. So we can't get it to climb. We can't get it to go past half, as long as we'd let it idle, which was about 12 minutes, and then plus all this driving. So here we go again on this hill. Usually set it down into third. Gonna be nice and easy on it. Motor sounds good. Hear it? You know, that was some raised RPMs, and I like to move the driver's seat, make myself more comfortable, but my father taught me years ago, if, customers really go out of their way to get their seats just the way they like them. And so, unless I can't drive it, I will not move a seat in a customer's car or touch anything in the car, because they have everything set to the way they want it. And that's just the way we were taught in the automobile business. Don't touch anything. It's not your car. Everything you do around a Rolls-Royce, do it slow, do it easy, walk around it, that sort of thing. Be safe. Because you don't want anything falling into the car or having any problems. You just don't want to do it. Okay. They used to say the loudest thing you could hear in one of these is the turn signal. Here we go. Or the electric clock in cars.
That's that turn signal.
That's the turn signal. That's it. There you go. Okay. Well, it's running smooth for us. I don't know what to say. Working well. Put it back and forth gear. Went just fine there from taking off. So shift firmed and well. I think I'd try and find somebody. I don't do that real fine adjustment on that transmission. I think you should find somebody who go back after the transmission and adjust that point of making it smooth right there. That's quite an art right on that piece. I'm great with carburation. I can get these things to idle to 200 RPMs if I want. I don't have any issues there going on. Looks like the clock isn't working. It's sitting exactly where it was when we left. So, we did have the battery disconnected. We had to remove the alternator and other parts around the car. So, just to be on the safe side, we always like to make sure the battery's disconnected. Here we go once again down this really steep hill. We went up a very steep hill. We go down a steep hill. Car's good and warm at this point. We could say safely that, I don't think it's going to have any heating issues unless he is caught in traffic. And then there's, I can't take out of the car what was built into it. All I can do is put it in. Like I said, this car has a different set of fan blades. There's an actual sticker on it. We took a picture of it for the aftermarket air conditioning on it, and it should give them no problems. But there may be that occasional where it's so hot out, that sort of thing. And with the vintage car, there are some sacrifices. So maybe you have to pull off the seat trying to get too hot on a day that's almost 100 degrees out, and maybe you're stuck in idling and you just don't have any choice. Maybe pull off, let it cool down, let the traffic go by, and then go. There's just not much you can do about the way something was made back then. There are changes you could do, but like anything else, it's more money and more time. Anyway, we're Sam Smyth. We're established out of Ireland in 1934, and my parents immigrated into the United States in 1950 in New York. They were sponsored by a gentleman named Mr. Ferguson. He was the biggest importer in New York for all the imported cars. Then they came to Cincinnati, and then just a short time after Cincinnati, my father became a new car franchise dealer for his first dealership was in '59 was with Jaguar. So, and then it moved from there. As the latter years moved on, it went from Jaguar to Triumph to Rover to TVR to Saab. So we had all those franchises. Kind of neat. Back in the days between the 50s and the 60s. And then we had a place down in Florida in Boca Raton, close to Lighthouse Point and everything, where we had another house where we had garages and cars we worked on down there and restored for people, for a lot of stockbrokers, a lot of bankers had a lot of these type of cars, and they love their luxury automobiles, and we were fortunate enough that they picked us to service those particular automobiles due to our history and everything else. I think it speaks for itself and our longevity within the business. You go. All right, I'll go. So, anyway, we've been in the Cincinnati area, like I said, since the 50s. Our dealership was in Norwood, Ohio, which is close to Cincinnati, just closer part down to going towards Cincinnati. We're about 30 miles north of Cincinnati. We're in a quiet subdivision. Borders up to us is Indian Hill and Sims Township. So we've got about 5 police divisions around us. Not that we really need it, but it's a great thing. And we do have cameras and alarm systems. Not that we really need it, but those are great things as well. But with all that being said, we have a lot going for us. We don't have a huge place here, so we do a couple cars at a time, and then we have people wait to get their cars in. Either they're at their homes or they're here. And we do everything from the little sports cars with the Rolls-Royce and Bentleys to the very expensive exotic sports cars. We're just going to back this up for a few photos. We've just put new siding on the building, and we don't even have our name on the building right at the moment. We're going to check this parking too. Okay. There we go. No after run, shut off fine. We'll turn the key on in about 2 minutes here. Watch the temperature, see where it is right now, how low it is. Okay, walk around the car a minute and look for any leaks underneath the front, around the grill. Get some nice pictures in here. Get them over here. You can stand back and get the building in there too. That'd be a great one. We were getting, get it? We were getting some leakage from the assisted power steering pump in the front. We tightened that. There's no leakage there now. Did you get an angle back here with the independent authorized Bentley workshop sign to collect the car, and try and get that as straight as possible, even though I got the car crooked. That made a great picture for my cell phone. I'd love to have that, you know, on my cell phone, and then try and get this back up on the thing. With this new GoPro, you know more about it than I do. Can we take some separate pictures of it too?
Yeah,
after
we'll be able
we're
to do
done
that.
bidding,
Yeah.
running the video. I just want to give it another second here. As you can see underneath, everything's absolutely dry. We have probably about, I don't know, we have some mileage on the car, so something should give way if it wanted to. And heat. Let's go over to this side, Pete, and open that door, and I'll turn the key on. We'll see how the temperature rises. Okay, on any car, when you turn them off, you'll see an immediate temperature rise. We're going to see, that's what we want to look for here on the water gauge. So let's turn it on, and well, as you can see, we've got great airflow. Everything's perfect. Instead of having like a super rise on it, which is what this used to do, used to go up like that, it's just staying nice and cool. So with the generator light on, the car not started. Now, one thing we could check for too is a hot start. It's in neutral. Let's give it a shot. Nope. The carburetor's on a little bit, just a little. It's just a touch of gas. Generator lights off. Now you can see it where it went up. So it took the fluid, moved it around by the temperature. That's in about the middle of the manifold. Now I'm just going to hold the idle up just a hair, just a touch. Okay, here a little bit of tap it, but it's an older car, you know, so it's not uncommon. Like I said, a good oil change could probably get rid of all that. So nothing past that, I'm happy. That's the best we can do, unless there's combustion chamber problems that we don't know about. So anyway, once again, this is Sam Smyth from Smyth Imported Car Service, established out of Ireland, 1934. This is a 1961 Rolls-Royce Silver Cloud 2, which we did the cooling system on, rebuilt the water pump, rebuilt the core, oversized the core, put in a thicker shaft, did everything much, as best possibly could be done for the cooling system. Replaced some hoses with what appears to be like a Kevlar hose now, and Jubilee clamps, and tidied some things up, and there you have it. Didn't worry too much about the electric fan deal there. We have nothing to do with that, so that'll either work or won't work. It was probably working before, so we didn't test it. We'll check it afterwards, but the owner really was thinking about pulling that, so we thought, well, maybe we'll just leave it as a backup too. So anyway, with that being said, that's it. Give us a call if you're in the Cincinnati area. Our telephone number is 513-793-0434, and it's Smyth, SMYTH, Imports, IMPORTS.com. You can find us on the web at smythimports.com. Thank you.